Hello, greetings and welcome to my farm. So I'm just doing some weeding, cleaning up on these onions. These are onion seedlings. They'll be ready. They should be ready in about 2 weeks time ready for transplant in about 2 weeks time. So I'm just currently just clearing out the weeds and ensure that all is well, and the onions are doing well, and in about 2 weeks time I'll be ready to transplant them. But today I want us to to look. There's this burning question that there's this debate that we always have that divides so many farmers, and that is whether when you before you transplant your onion seedlings, do you trim or not? So that there's always been that debate on whether to trim or not to trim your onions before you transplant. And so today I want us to, I'll be looking at both sides and see, probably at the end of this video, be able to make up a decision on what way to go for. So here I have these onions that I transplanted about 2 months ago. These are slightly over 2 months ago. As you can see, actually they have already, the bulbing process already started. So they've already started bulbing and they're doing so well. So in about another month's time, they'll be ready for harvest. So for this particular batch, these particular onions, when I was transplanting them, I did the trimming. Because now today we want us to look at the issue of whether to trim or not to trim when transplanting onions. So for these particular onions, I did the trimming. The reason was because, of course, in the nursery they were too crowded and they got too long and leggy. So I decided to do the trimming and during the transplant. And so far you can see slightly over 2 months. It's about 2 months and a few days. The onions are still doing well, and they are actually, the bulbing process has already started. So what are some of the benefits of trimming the bulb onions during transplant? So actually some of the benefits that you get from trimming is that it encourages bush growth. What happens is once you trim the leaves, it encourages the plant to focus the energy on the roots, developing of the roots, and with that now, and as well as the multiplying of the shoots. So this leads to a fuller onion. So once you do the trimming, it encourages the development of the root as well as the shoot. So with that, you're able to get stronger stems. So if you trim as well, it can prevent the seedlings from becoming top heavy. See, at times you'll get the seedlings are long and heavy. See, if they become too top heavy, and probably during the windy conditions, they tend to collapse. So by trimming, you're able to prevent the seedlings from becoming top heavy, and with that they start collapsing. The other advantage is, at times you can also, those who trim out the roots, slightly, you do a clean cut of the roots. With that, of course, what that does is that it stimulates the growth of new roots. However, of course, for every thing that you do, of course, with the trimming, you also have some drawbacks. So what are some of the drawbacks that you can experience from trimming? So one of the drawbacks that you get is that it reduces the photosynthetic area. It removes, by removing of the leaves, that means you have a less surface area to capture the sunlight. And with that, and you remember that's where now the plant, uses that to generate energy for growth. So by trimming of the leaves, you reduce the surface area, the photosynthetic area. The other thing with the trimming is that it brings upon stress on the seedlings. The trimmings can be, so there is a stress occasioned by the trimming of the seedlings, and that now the seedlings experience more transplant shock, and that especially, of course, potentially delays the establishment of the seedlings. In fact, for this particular patch, because I did the trimming, I realized that it took actually about 2 weeks, for these seedlings to recover from the transplant. There was a lot of transplant shock, and I noticed that the crop was really stressed, and it took about almost a whole 2 weeks for me to be able to realize some new shoots developing. But however, of course, it recovered, and the crop is doing well. Yeah. So here I have another batch. This one I transplanted about 3 weeks ago. it's almost getting to 3 weeks since transplant. But for this particular batch, because now the seedlings were, I noticed the seedlings were quite strong and sturdy, I opted not to trim. So I did not trim these seedlings, I just planted them as they were. And what I noticed that, the seedlings actually picked up very fast as compared to the ones that I had done the trimming. So these ones picked up very fast, and you can see, of course, now you can see so many new shoots have already been developed as we speak. So these ones they seem to be picking up very fast, as opposed to the ones that were trimmed. So one of the benefits that you get from not trimming is that, see, there is no need now for the crop to recover from the trimming. So therefore, there is a potential for faster establishment of that crop. The other advantage is that, remember, if you don't do the trimming, of course, there is a maximum for photosynthetic area. That means now the leaves have more energy, that area now for more energy for production and growth. So there's more photosynthetic area. However, of course, now there's also drawbacks for not trimming as well. So some of the drawbacks that you get for not trimming is that you might get weak seedlings, especially if the seedlings are not trimmed. As you said, they become top heavy, and they may struggle to stand upright. You've noticed that after transplant, the crops they struggle to stand upright. So that could be one of the drawbacks of not trimming. Whether to trim your seedlings or not, one thing you need to consider probably is the health of your seedlings. If they are strong and healthy enough, you can transplant them without trimming. But either method, whether you choose to trim or not to trim, they both work okay. They are both fine. All you need to consider is the health of your seedling. The other thing, of course, before transplant, ensure you harden off your seedlings. So if they're doing it on seedling trays, consider giving them outside to get that outdoor experience. And if it's an open area like this, open nursery bed like this, probably can regulate the watering, so that you can start hardening them off before transplant, so that when they move to the new environment, there'll be not much of a transplant shock. So with that, they'll be able to have a bountiful harvest. So whether to trim or not to trim, either option is okay. You'll be able to get good results. But if you have healthy seedlings, probably there is actually no need to trim, and probably now your crop will have a faster establishment. So don't forget that farming is all about experimentation. So don't be afraid to try different techniques. So in this case, whether to trim or not to trim, just try out any technique that you and no don't be afraid to try out the different techniques and see what works best for you. So with that, get out there, transplant those onions, or those onion seedlings. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next one, happy farming.